Episode 7. Last night, UNC and Duke both opened up the 2024 ACC season with games against Pittsburgh and Syracuse. Things looked slightly different last night because my guy, Mike Krzyzewski, I didn't say that right, Coach K, Jimmy Boeheim retired from college basketball, and on the sidelines was John Scheyer and Adrian Autry. They both led their respective teams. At the other end of town or up in Pittsburgh, Hubert Davis met up with the blue-blooded Capel brothers. If you don't know, both Capel brothers are from North Carolina, and they both played at Duke and Carolina. At the night's end, UNC easily defeated Pitt 70-57, and Duke cruised to an 86-66 victory over Syracuse. Before we jump in, I want to talk to my man Daryl. I want to talk to my man Will. How was your Christmas? How was your New Year?
Uh, they were both. It's funny that they just didn't feel like the holiday season so much this year. It felt like time was flying by. I don't know if it's the fact that I'm getting older, or if it's just sitting in that now there's no Santa Claus and I have to be Santa Claus to buy all the gifts. But it was a great holiday. Good to see family and friends, but it definitely flew by.
Okay, Will, what about you? How was
Yeah,
it?
it was good, man. It was good. I've got a 6 and a 7-year-old, so we still do the whole Santa thing, and it was just a lot of fun. They've kind of re-excited me for the holidays. So it's always the holiday season's always a good time for us.
All right. Well, I've got a 26-year-old, I've got a 23-year-old, and I got a 20-year-old. And they're all making money. So what I got for Christmas, I got a new Peloton Tread Plus.
Okay.
That's a Christmas gift from my kid, bro.
Okay. Okay. Must be
Good
nice.
gift.
Must be nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My daughter bought me some cologne. She said, "Dad, I really like the way this smells, so I hope you like it."
Get you some new
And then my other
reward
son
shirts.
bought me a new Apple TV 4K. So like for the first time, racked up during Christmas. So
That's
if
great.
if you're worried about buying gifts, kids, hang in there. Hang in there, guys. The pendulum flips and they start to make money one day. All right, so I'm glad you guys all had a great Christmas. We want to jump into Duke and Carolina, and we're going to start out with Daryl. Last night, Cameron Indoor Stadium, no Jimmy Boeheim, no Coach K, John Scheyer, Adrian Autry were the coaches. How did that make you feel? How did that rivalry feel without the legends?
It felt kind of weird, Hassan. As a young man who's a '90s baby, kind of growing up in the prime of Jim Boeheim and Coach K's eras, to not see either guy on the sideline is really weird. Last year there was no Coach K, there was just Jim Boeheim, but you still see that iconic 2-3 zone defense. Boeheim looking like Bernie Sanders, 80 years old on the sidelines. Those things, these guys have been looking like they were 70 for the last 30 years, right? And so it's really weird to see them in a retirement home essentially now. And every time they would shoot pan to the sideline of Syracuse to see a black coach was just like, oh my God, man, who is this guy? Oh, that's right, that is their coach. Jim Boeheim isn't there anymore, and to even see John Scheyer, even though I've been watching Duke all year, to see John Scheyer, even when they pan the sideline, for them not to find Coach K somewhere in the stands it's just really weird, man. And it is encouraging for the future of these two programs, to see some new faces. But at the same time, we're always going to miss those iconic guys who spent 40 plus years in their respective universities.
Daryl, when I was looking at the bench, the Duke bench specifically, I had trouble locating the coach because John Scheyer has his little Duke warm up on. All the other coaches had their little Duke warm up on. And I didn't see like someone who represented for me a head coach, and that took away from the experience because I couldn't tell who was actually coaching because Scheyer was sitting in between his assistant coaches. Will, we're gonna go over to you. Last night, UNC took on Pittsburgh. You have Hubert Davis, you have Jason Capel, the Capel brothers, and Jason Capel right? What was your thoughts on seeing a Tar Heel and a Dookie coach against a new Tar Heel? What was that like?
I mean, I love that the brothers are coaching together, but it's still weird. You're never gonna not look across the way and see a Tar Heel and Jason Capel and a Dookie and Jeff Capel. So it's just, I mean, what those guys did for each of their respective programs and what they're doing for Pitt. Pitt's a good team, but it's just weird looking across and seeing a Tar Heel not on the not wearing the right colors, I should say.
Did you have any problems with Jeff and Jason being Tar Heels? I mean, they grew up in Fayetteville, I believe. Um, not being part of like the Carolina tradition, the Carolina family. Both of them are capable coaches. Did any of that like sit on you that they're born in the state of North Carolina, they grew up in the state of North Carolina, but they don't represent the state of North Carolina anymore?
Not really. I think that, I mean, if you listen to those guys in interviews, they still give props where props are due to Carolina and Duke respectively. Um, and you can't get mad at a guy for going where the opportunity is, and they're just doing what's best for them and their families right now. And honestly, they're halfway successful, which you always like to see as well. So I don't think it's too weird.
I-
Okay,
I'm thinking that I'm thinking that maybe they realized that there was no future in Carolina with
Yep.
Hubert Davis there.
Yep.
Yeah, that basically they'll be coming for that spot here pretty soon whenever he gets fired.
Nah.
okay,
Nah.
Daryl, question. What about Jeff Capel? What about him? I mean, he was on the bench with Coach K. He brought in some big time recruits in the last 10, 15 years over at Duke. I mean, what do you think about that? Is John Scheyer a significantly better coach, a better recruiter than the body of work that Jeff Capel did?
No, I mean, I don't think that he's significantly better. I was a bit surprised actually when they announced that Scheyer was going to be the next coach that Cable didn't even get a shot. But I do think that he's had his time, he's had his chances in other places. And honestly, I'm probably more surprised that like a Hurley or even Woj didn't come to Duke before they moved Scheyer up. But as far as Jeff Cable's concerned, I really just think he's trying to continue to build his experience in case the Shire job doesn't work out. John Shire right now, he's not on the hot seat, but at the same time, it's not a guarantee that he'll be there for 40 more years like Coach K. So I think Jeff Cable's really just building his resume, trying to show that he can compete in the same conference that Duke is in, and ultimately, hopefully, he probably wants to slide into that position if John Shire doesn't work out.
So I knew that Jeff was not getting the job when he took the job at Pitt. One, if you want the Duke job, you do not take a competing job in the ACC. You go to the Big 12, Big 10, you go where the Big East, you go to the Pac 12, right? You do not go in conference for a job. So when Coach K was still competing and Jeff went over to Pittsburgh, I said there's no chance of him getting that job. He already knows what the succession plan is, and I was right. So I think they went.
You're always right, Hassan. You're always
I,
right.
I was
I do
right.
think I think it would be interesting. Honestly, I think it would be interesting to see if he were to beat Duke year to year. I think that would be his stamp. Maybe he thought, let me go into the same conference, not necessarily the beaten path of so to speak, but at the same time, yeah, let me go into the same conference. I get to play him twice a year, smack him around a little bit, and show him I'm the guy. So that way, if the opportunity does present itself, they can put me in that slot, and they know that I'm capable of competing with a competition that's very similar to what I'm going to face in Duke.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I totally agree. So last night, Daryl, let's talk about last night. I was pretty excited about that game because it was two comparable teams. I believe at the beginning of that game, they had comparable records. Yeah, so Syracuse 10-4, Duke was 10-3. Last night, Syracuse was 10-3 and Duke was 9-3. So I thought maybe this is going to be a game. What did we learn last night, Daryl?
I think there's a couple things that we learned. I've been saying all year that it can't be Filipowski or bust. And last night, with him being in a little bit of foul trouble, you got to see, some other guys step up, like Mark Mitchell. And so I think that you saw that they don't necessarily need Filipowski, and I think they'll be better off. And they also give some guys a chance to really establish themselves, like a Jared McCain, who's been playing really well here recently. And so the biggest thing that you learned was it didn't have to be Filipowski. And that shooters are gonna shoot, man. The first half, live by the three, die by the three, right? And Duke was on the ground. They were bleeding out 35-33 at halftime, all because of that three. And in the second half, they came back and all of a sudden they started shooting their own gun, so to speak. They look like Mike Lowry from Bad Boys. And so, I think that it just showed that, like I've been saying all year, Filipowski is going to have to be the best player in the country, but he also can't be the only player that's playing well for Duke. And shooters are going to shoot. So you saw the difference night and day, first and second half.
Okay, so Will, let's talk about the Pitt game. Let's talk about that. What did you learn from a 9-4 Pittsburgh team that lost to Duke? What did you learn?
I learned that this team, the Tar Heels, can win games in a number of different ways. We didn't have a great shooting night last night. Cadeau was in foul trouble pretty early. And honestly, I don't know if you guys watched the game last night, but I don't think we scored for the first 4.5 or 5 minutes of that game. And just the fact that we were able to get it done defensively and play that kind of bully ball style where we out rebounded them finally by 12 and did all the things that we've kind of been struggling. It just kind of gave me hope that this team's going to be able to continue to roll in conference play and just get it done in ways that if you have an off shooting night, you can still win a game.
So, Will, you touched on something profound. UNC actually won the boards. I think they were
Yeah.
even on defensive rebounds, but I think they were positive on offensive rebounds. Are you convinced that they fixed their rebounding issues, or was just Pitt a smaller team and it wasn't a UConn? It wasn't, it wasn't in Arizona. What are your thoughts?
So Pitt's not a UConn or an Arizona that's got 2 or 3 7-footers, obviously. But anytime you go out and you have 15-second chance points, you out rebound them on the offensive glass, and you do the things that you've been struggling in for most of the season, it's something to hang your hat on. And it's you got to take positives where you can. And I mean, we've been talking about every episode of this pod, we've been talking about how Carolina's had the rebounding issues and the size issues and this, that, and the other. And I mean, ultimately, until the tournament, it looks like we won't have to play another Arizona or UConn, So if we can go in and beat these teams, we've got Clemson coming up, who's a great team, but they're not as big. I think they've got 3 6'10" guys. So if we can go out and we can out rebound teams that we're supposed to beat, then I see that as a glass half full kind of thing.
Okay, Daryl, I'm going to throw it back at you. Duke was almost level on rebounds. I think you lost by a little bit, but this was a better rebounding night on the defensive glass and on the offensive glass. Are those issues in the paint solved? Question.
The answer is no. But we also learned that when you shoot 75% from the field, the opponent has less defensive rebounds to grab. And so the
Oh,
numbers
very,
were
very interesting,
the,
Daryl. Go, come on, talk to
yeah,
me.
the numbers were closer, sure. But I don't know that it showed that Duke is a better rebounding team than what we saw last week or what we saw against Arizona. And I think that if they shoot a high percentage from the field, then they don't have to worry about the opponent grabbing boards. But I think there's still an issue with that. Nobody's in double digits for rebounds. Nobody's they're not growing 6 inches overnight like an Anthony Davis. So Duke's still gonna have to figure it out. But if they do shoot a high percentage, they have nothing to worry about. The question is, when they start missing again, do the numbers start to fall out of their favor?
Jeremy Roach had 4 rebounds. Mark Mitchell's had 6. You know that, right? So like 6'10", 6'11", Mark Mitchell got 6, but Jeremy Roach got 4 rebounds
Yeah,
and 17.
Mark Mark Mitchell scored 21 points, 18 in the first half last night, but that's not what I don't know that that's what they needed from him last night. Sure, but I don't know that that's what they need from him moving forward. If he's not going to grab 8 to 10 rebounds a night, Duke is going to be in trouble. And there's going to be nights where Filipowski is in foul trouble, or Filipowski has to stretch the floor, and Mark Mitchell's going to have to find a way to grab more boards because they don't have a lot of size. So guys like Jeremy Roach and Jalen Blakes and these guards, Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster, they're gonna have to start grabbing boards as well. So I'm looking for 4 to 5 rebounds a night from these guards too, because Duke doesn't have a lot of size.
All right, let's talk about this Jared McCain guy, 18 points last night. Your thoughts, and also want to talk about Blake's, Proctor, and TJ Powell. Give me your thoughts on, like, especially TJ Powell and Blake's. Are they going to be the ones that fall off on this team? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Sheyer's starting to establish a rotation. You're getting a few guys in there for a few minutes here and there, like TJ Power, but I think he's going to fall off. I think Blake's has established himself as a playmaking guard. He can build a house with bricks on a nightly basis for sure. But at the same time, I think he's really a top-notch playmaker. But right now, Jared McCain, in this absence of Tyreek Proctor, and obviously his brief return here recently, Jared McCain has established himself as a guy. You've got Filipowski, you've got Proctor, you got Roach, and I think right now McCain is finding a way to ease himself in that rotation. I thought it would be Caleb Foster, but McCain has taken over. He's averaging about 20 points a game over the last 5 games, and he's been their leading scorer in 3 out of the last 5 games. So I think right now Jared McCain is looking like, out of that Fantastic Four freshman class, that he's the guy.
Okay, so tell me about Caleb Foster, Jalen Blakes, TJ Power. We're going to also say Tyrese Proctor is the other guy, but Caleb Foster, Blakes, Power, what's going on, man?
Yeah, so the three that you're talking about with Foster, Blakes, and Power, I'm not sure that those guys are ready right now. TJ Power especially, just not seeing enough. I was calling him Tommy TJ Power because just like Tommy from Power, he was a shooter, but that guy is missing more than he's making right now. I don't know if it's a confidence thing or what. But I would definitely say that Tyrese Proctor is obviously just easing his way back in, working his way back in. He's the second best player on this team. I don't think there's any question about that. But Blake's and Power, they're probably gonna have to find their way to the bench, and hopefully Scheyer will continue to give Blake's about 10 minutes a game, just to keep him out there so he can continue to make plays. But TJ Power, he might be in the TJ transfer portal. To be honest, looking at the way that this season is played out, unless he makes some kind of a leap here pretty soon, he may end up in that transfer portal.
Okay, Will, let's talk about your guy, Cadeau, his 4 points. How do you feel about him being a starter and his contributions last night and going forward?
I like him as a starter. I think he and Seth Trimble are kind of interchangeable. I think they bring the same type of game, whether it's they're both strong defensively. They can.
I mean, is he? Is he?
I think he is. I think he is. And,
You
and
don't think he's undersized defensively?
last night he got into some dumb foul situations, and I mean, the kids still should be in high school for all intents and purposes. Like it's one of those where you let these guys. I mean, we're deep enough. We talked about in previous episodes with the depth, and I think that having the 8-9 guys, we can throw Paxton Wojcik in the mix. We can throw Tremble in the mix and get these guys some minutes. And we don't need a guy like Cadeau every night to only have double-digit points. We can, a night like last night where he only had 4, he had 4 fouls as well. He had a turnover or 2. He was just guys are going to have off nights, and we still won the game by 13. And the ACC is tough, man. It's Jeff Capel knows Jason and Jeff Capel, I should say, know Carolina. They know Duke. They know the way we play. They know the game. And to go in and on an off night when, I mean, we didn't shoot very well. We shot 36%. We held them to 31% shooting. So situations like that, like, we don't always need Cadeau. I do think Cadeau's going to help us down the stretch come tournament time, come late season, February, March, April, more than he's going to hurt us. the way that kid facilitates the ball and runs the floor, I think that having a true point guard like him on the court has helped out RJ. RJ's back to the RJ from 2 years ago during that tournament run where he was knocking down big shots for us. So I just think that
I think it was the Radford game that prepared you guys for that moment.
Prepare for Duke and North Carolina to face off like never before. Blue Blood Rivalry 5K! 5K! Sign up one, sign up all. Students, families, alumni, locals, non-locals, everyone! And you don't even need to be from UNC or Duke, because we have a Party Crasher division. Party Crasher! Come state, Wake, UVA, anyone, and join the fun. Crash their party! But the real battle is between the Blue Devils and the Tar Heels! Before it's settled on the court, it'll be settled on the race course! But there's more! There will be a special basketball dribble division where each participant will travel the race course dribbling a basketball! Dribbling a basketball? Hell yeah! That's cool! So sign up now! Attention all racers, prepare for the event of a lifetime. The race course will most certainly decide a champion school.
Carolina fans, download Duke Carolina, the Blue Blood Rivalry film on iTunes or Apple TV or wherever you get your VOD downloads.
Hey, Quinn. Quinn, you know you my guy, right? I'm always putting for you. Tonight, when you step on the court, I step on the court too. And we in it.
There's only 2 games that matter. It's the North Carolina game at Duke and the Duke game that's at North Carolina.
When we wake up on game day, there's a knot in my stomach. We've been up since 6 a.m. this morning watching recorded Duke Carolina games.
I watched the Rivers shot
about 15 times.
Yeah. Rivers on his own. Yes, at the buzzer.
We're here for the Duke game.
And it is 10 hours and 9 minutes until game time.
The Blue Devils win 85-84.
Nothing better than North Carolina and Duke. It is the best rivalry in all of college basketball. Hall of Fame coaches, great players, and usually so much at stake.
And that's it. Carolina's won it.
The fans have as much to do with the rivalry being great as the players and the coaches.
5 hours before game time.
Well, there's no question that the rivalry is there every day in our community.
Can you imagine what it would be like around here if people didn't have it? It would be terrifying.
We are 30 minutes away from tip-off.
It's one of the most exciting events you can be a part of, and I still say it's not the biggest rivalry in college basketball. It's the biggest rivalry in all of sport, bar none.
It's game time!
Yeah.
Charleston Southern, you
sure
guys
it was
played
Radford.
Radford. Get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure playing Radford prepared you guys for this, Will. That's what I'm about to hear, I'm sure. I was just
No,
waiting
not
for
at
it.
all. No, I just think that I like the way he facilitates the ball. I think that he frees guys up to be able to knock down open shots like RJ, like Cormac and Harrison Ingram and guys like that. And I think that guys are going to have an off night. Look at Duke's lineup for the last 2 months. They've been having off nights every night, it feels like. So it's just one of those.
Yeah, we need to play Campbell next so we can get ready for our opponent after that.
Why not? Why not?
This is the
help your freshmen out, man. Help your freshmen out.
Well,
this is from my Will school of knowledge right here. That's what that is.
All right.
Knowledge for
Will,
college.
here's my problem.
Okay.
I know you like Kiddo, right? But the reason why he is on the court is for his ability to bring the ball up the court.
Yep.
And what that does is it gives RJ the ability to move without the ball and find his shot. Like you got RJ at 15 points, Baycott 16 points. Ingram wasn't great last night, but he got 15 rebounds on the glass. He's the reason you were positive, right?
Yep.
Cormac Ryan, I mean, he had a decent night, 10 points. I mean, I'd like to see him at 13, 14 points, but he had a decent night. But Cadeau allows you to get your best shooter to find spacing for him to find an open shot. The problem is Cadeau offensively is not that great. Physically, he's not that great. Athletically, he's not that great. If we're honest, he is not a Caleb Love. Like the RJ Caleb Love combination was better because Caleb Love.
Though?
It was
we
until they
saw
had a
we
fucking
saw how
problem.
last season went. It's
no. They had a fucking they had a fucking problem between the two of them, right? So
they
did, right? But I'm talking about size, depth, the ability to bring the ball up the court. If we want to have an honest conversation, Caleb Love was recruited there as a 6'4" point guard, right? That attacked a basket. But that meant that they could go into different sets and get Caleb off the ball, get RJ off the ball, because they both were like a dual combo. But the difference here is size. The difference here is athleticism. Elliot Cadeau is an average athlete, average size, 6 foot. If you're just trying to do well in the ACC, perhaps maybe win it. But if you're trying to win a national championship, I don't think this is that lineup. I mean, you got Cadeau 6 foot, RJ 6 foot. So that means they're both 5'11". You got Cormac Ryan listed at 6'7", but he's probably 6'5". You got Ingram listed at 6'7". He's probably 6'6". In the book, Armando Bacot is listed 6'11". He is not 6'11".
There's no way he's 6'11".
He's about 6'9", 6'9". Okay, so you have a small team, and that is the problem if you're trying to win national championships. I don't think the Carolina team is big enough to do it.
I don't think Will wants to win national championships. He just wants to play Radford.
No, I absolutely want to win national championships. I just think that when you've got a new team, I think that gimme games like a Radford or a Charleston Southern. You're stuck on Radford for some reason. It's Charleston Southern. Get it right.
Charleston Southern, Radford. It all feels about the same.
I think that those gimme games like you guys need. I mean, you're sitting here coming up with excuses for Tommy the Truth Power that you called him earlier this season and all these other guys. And you're
it's
coming
TJ, Tommy Power.
You called him the Truth.
You clearly don't know Tommy and Ghost, but that's okay.
You did, Daryl. We're gonna double down on you. You said Tommy the Truth, TJ Power. What happened?
Run the tape back. I can't wait till this episode goes live so everybody can see the lies.
I kept receipts, kid. I kept receipts. But I do think, we're sitting here, you're coming up with excuses for your guys. And I think, the fact that we're even having this conversation about Cadeau, the kid, he doesn't have the size that Caleb Love has. And Caleb Love
he doesn't have the fucking problem that Caleb Love had either. So there's pros and cons to it.
Clearly Caleb's still catching bodies out there in Arizona. I don't know if you guys saw that.
You know he is. But he's somebody else.
No, we didn't see it. Tell us, Daryl.
He's somebody else's
problem. He dunked all over. He dunked all over the guy from, I believe it was Cal, man. It was just in this past week. He definitely is looking a lot more pro-ish since he left the University of quote unquote national champions.
Yeah.
I
hate when a Carolina guy moves on because when he's there, you're like, okay, you see his flaws, but when he's somewhere else, I knew Caleb Love had good size, but he's 6'4", 6'5", but I don't know if you've ever seen him. Caleb is big. He's got wide shoulders. He looks like a guy that could play in the NBA. And when he was with Carolina, I was like, he's streaky. You never know what you're going to get. But then watching him at Arizona, I'm like, damn, if him and RJ could work and play together and, just play together, what could they have produced over there? Those are my questions, Will and Daryl.
Yeah, they would look really good. I'll be completely honest. I think they would look really good this year, and they probably would have looked good last year because they looked good the year before if they didn't have that fucking problem. But unfortunately, they had that fucking problem.
And it really was a problem. It was a problem. And you could tell watching those games too that it was. Yeah, they were both good, and both individually they're spectacular. But if you watched, dudes would look at each other and then jack up shots from the parking lot before we even had anybody down there to get a rebound last year. So it was one of those where that fucking problem got in the damn way. And I hate seeing a guy leave like that, especially with that level of talent. But I mean, one of them had to leave, and it is what it is.
Okay, so Daryl, you talked about Blake's, you talked about TJ Power. Tell the fans about this Jared McCain. Who is he? Where did he come from? Why is he looking like the breakthrough guy? Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, so like I was saying earlier, Jared McCain is he's established himself in the absence of Proctor, and like I said, since he's returned, McCain has looked like the second best player on this team. He's shooting 47% from three this season, averaging about 12 points a game. But like I said, in the last five, especially without Tyrese Proctor, he was Duke's leading scorer in three of those games. And I think on the nights where Filipowski couldn't show up because of foul trouble, this guy McCain stepped in and he provided a spark for Duke. And I thought that it would be Caleb Foster. I thought Caleb Foster was the third best player on his team after Filipowski and Proctor. But I believe that it might be McCain. And if McCain keeps playing the way that he's been playing, this kid is not going to be at Duke for long, and he's not going to be in the transfer portal. He's going to be transferring to the professional, the NBA, the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I definitely think I agree with you. Will, next up, UNC has number 16 ranked Clemson. What should we expect? Does Clemson have any bigs in the paint? They normally do. What are your thoughts, Will?
They've got like three guys who are 6'10". This kid PJ Hall averages 20.5 points a game. He's finally healthy. Joe Girard is obnoxious as well. He's one of those shooting guard, point guards, whatever you want to call it, that just shoots like 46% from three. They're a good team. They play really, really well defensively. But they haven't played anybody. So it'll be interesting to see once they start. I mean, they lost to Memphis, but they beat Radford. I don't know if you knew that or not, but they did get a win against Radford, Daryl.
Yeah, but they're 11-1. Like they're 16th, they're 16th ranked. They've lost one game all year.
So
this could be a tricky game here.
It will be. It'll be a tough. We don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my memory, we don't do well in those early Saturday morning, afternoon games, like the noon tip-offs. And this game is at Clemson at noon on a Saturday, and it'll be a tough game. No mistakes about it.
I mean, they beat Alabama. They beat Auburn. I mean, they've beat some
I'm looking at their they've got a win against Alabama, they've got a win against Pitt, South Carolina, TCU. They lost to Memphis, but then the rest of them, I mean, yeah, they beat.
But they only lost to Memphis by 2 points.
Yeah, Memphis is a good team too.
I mean, they're ranked number 15. Like, I'm just saying, like, this to me seems like a game that potentially could go south, right? So tonight they play Miami. You're going to learn a lot about Clemson tonight. So they get that Miami win, okay? They win in Miami, and they win against Miami. They're actually now 12-1.
Yep.
I mean, they're coming with a full head of steam, and the way you talked about, that Campbell win, going to these smaller schools, working on things. I mean, they've been working on this stuff against TCU. They've been working on against Queens College in North Carolina. They've been working on against Pittsburgh, Alcorn State. Like they've had a bunch of these games to kind of sort things, and this looks like a scary game to me.
And so I would agree with you. I mean, I do think it's a scary game. Clemson always plays us tough. It doesn't matter what the records look like or anything like that. And I do think that, I mean, their team's good. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They've got a great assist to turnover ratio. So they just do what they're supposed to do. And because of it, they're winning games. They're not turning the ball over a ton. They play solid defensively. I do just think, I mean, after watching this Pittsburgh game, I think that we can win games in any way. So I do think, I mean, we are going to need more out of Cadeau than 4 points, obviously, if we want to compete with teams like Clemson. But this is one of those teams where they've got the same size that we do. I mean, obviously RJ and Cadeau are a little bit smaller. Trimble's only 6'3". But these teams are built fairly similarly, and I just think that, I mean, we're gonna tell a lot about Clemson tonight, but also both of these teams on Saturday, and I think that we can go out and play these guys tough. I think that last game against Pitt, Seth Trimble had a confidence building game as well, and guys like that, and looked like Cormac's finally starting to turn his shot around a little bit. So I think that we're doing the right things, and I think that we can go out and play with a team like Clemson.
Okay, Daryl, finally, Duke is going up against unranked Notre Dame. I believe they're 6-7. Notre Dame plays a 9-3 NC State tonight. Is this a game that you guys should just walk in the gym and walk out of the gym with a victory? Thoughts, Daryl?
So Notre Dame, they're 6-7, right? They lost to Western Carolina. So I think that in the words of Will, this is like our Charleston Southern game. I'm so glad that we have this game. We get this game to warm up, to work on the things that we need to work on. No, I
You
believe.
sound like Will.
Yeah, yeah, we all need this game here to get our minds right and get some practice in. No, I really think that Notre Dame's not super athletic. I don't know that this will say a lot about the team. If Duke goes in there and they lose, then yeah, we'll be talking about this next week, and that'll mean something. But going in there to beat Notre Dame, aka Radford, aka Campbell, BKA Charleston Southern, we are not really seeing a lot or saying a lot by winning this game. It would say a lot more if we lost.
Okay, so but is this a game where Scheyer can kind of put the pieces together, right? Where a Caleb Forster, a Jalen Blakes, a TJ Power, Ryan Young even can get more minutes and make a case for themselves to get into that 7, right? Because right now at Duke, I see Roach, McCain, Mitchell, Filipowski, Proctor as your 5, Caleb Forsters as your 6. I think there's like one more spot that Blake's, Power, Young are fighting for.
Yeah, I really think that Blake's has already established himself in that 7 spot. It makes Duke kind of small, but they do have bigger guards to be able to overcome the size or lack thereof that Jalen Blake's has. But at this point, TJ Power's been out there. He's missing shots. Ryan Young isn't grabbing any rebounds. So I believe at this point we've kind of established it. Sheyer's just working Proctor in to get him back in the rhythm, get him back in the rotation. But 1 through 7, in my opinion, have already been established. The other guys will just get minutes if it's a blowout. So you can expect in this game, you might see a lot more of TJ Power, Ryan Young, but you're only going to see those guys because Duke's up by 20 or 30 points with 10 minutes left.
So you don't think Scheyer uses it as an opportunity to develop some of those guys that he might need down the stretch? I mean, I think he needs to go 7, potentially 8. I think 8 is a good number, because that gives you 2 guys on the offensive glass, 1 guard, or 2 guards, 1 offensive guy. But and I think 7 might be too small of a rotation. But I think if you go to 8, I think 7 or 8, I think that's where you need to be.
Yeah, I think 8 would be a good number if you had 8 that were capable of playing. I think right now, for what Duke has that they're not playing, they don't those pieces don't really help the team. They don't benefit the team right now in what Duke lacks. So I think they find more in a 7-man rotation with a couple guys getting a few more minutes than they would pushing the 8th man in there who's really not helping you or benefiting you on the boards. That's where Duke's going to find their biggest on the boards, but they don't have anybody on the bench that really helps that out. They got a bunch of shooters on the bench, and they've already got a bunch of shooters in the game. So I think a 7-man rotation is ideal. We'll see what happens in a blowout win, and if these guys come in here and they start scoring, start grabbing rebounds. You may see more of the TJ Powers and the Ryan Youngs, but I doubt it. I think Blake's is a seventh man, and Scheyer should stick with working on those guys and figuring out when to put in certain rotations.
Okay, Will, is there anything we're getting ready to go, but is there anything you want the fans to know about Carolina basketball this year that they may
Don't
not
play
know?
Charleston Southern this week.
Well, I think we're in a much better situation right now. We're in much better shape than our counterparts down 15-5-1.
That's
We're
bullshit.
sitting here talking about 8-9 guys deep. We're talking about Cadeau on an off night where he has 4 fouls, and we still have other guys step up. We've got 5-6 guys in double-digit minutes a game, and you guys are talking about a 6-man rotation. So I can't wait for somebody to get hurt.
It's 7.
Are you really?
Don't worry, we'll find an 8th man when we play Notre Dame, aka Charleston Southern. This is a really good game for us.
I just got some news across my phone that I'm a little bit more excited about than listening to you talk about your 7-man rotation.
Can you share the news with us, Will?
Yeah, Chiswick just got fired.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I mean, defense has been a fucking problem for.
We had a fucking problem on defense for sure, and
apparently the D is the fucking problem every year in Carolina basketball and football.
There's a running theme here with our athletics program. Apparently,
let me ask you a question. Wasn't Gene Tizzig? This is his second opportunity at Carolina. Wasn't he the defensive coordinator for Torbush?
Don't they say that? I think he was a coordinator. I think this is his 3rd time, actually. He was with Torbush, and then I think he was with Fedora. It was either Fedora or Butch.
Yeah, I think it's his 3rd time. I think he likes Chapel Hill.
The definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Like, stop bringing that guy back.
Okay. All right, Daryl, anything you want, anything that you want the fans to know about Duke football or even Duke basketball that they may not know?
Well, I keep an eye out for Duke, man. They're gaining traction right now. They're finding their rhythm. They're getting into a good spot, and by the time that we end up in Chapel Hill to face those pups out there, I think we'll be well prepared. So my statement at the beginning of the show was national champions, and I believe that that Duke is on the way.
Do you really believe that now?
I am going to say it until I convince myself it's on. But no, I do think that Duke is getting better. I think that they're starting to find a rhythm and starting to get a bit of a rotation going. I don't know if they're going to win the national championship. It's one and done when it comes to the tournament, and you never know. But I think that that some guys are starting to step up, and by February, these guys could be prepared to make a run at the national championship. Yes.
Okay, based on what I'm seeing, I see Duke Sweet 16 done. Okay, I just think that you're too weak on the glass. I think the paint is too weak, and I don't think you're going to be deep enough to really get it done. And that's my hot take on the Duke side. On the Carolina side, my biggest complaint is the size, right? I'm not a big fan of Cadeau. I think he's a nice point guard. I think he's a great person to take over RJ's spot. But the only reason why you're putting him on the field is to get RJ looks at the basket so that he can find his shot, right? So, and I think that RJ is undersized. So when you saw him play against Connecticut, when you saw him play against Kentucky, when we needed those shots, he couldn't find them because he had a 6'6", 6'7" guy in his face. But I do think the Carolina team is slightly better than the Duke team. And I'm going to say the Carolina would be at this juncture a Final 8, and you guys can record that. You can bookmark that, and let's see where we end. But I think they're more of a Final 8 team. I don't think they're a Final 4 team just because they don't have the size.
What about when they match up, Hassan? What do you think about when they match up? I think right now Duke is. I think both teams, when what you're saying, they lack size, and I think Armando plays like he's 6'6" instead of 6'11". So how do you think that matches up with Filipowski? How do you think Duke and Carolina match up this year?
I don't think
so.
I think he is.
I think on paper, Duke looks like an NBA team. I think in actuality, they're not an NBA team. They're not hard in the paint. They're technical guys that don't want to play defense. So I think this matchup is going to be a very good matchup. I think Armando's been colliding, but Armando will show up for that Duke game. I think RJ will show up for that Duke game. I think Jeremy Roach will show up for the Duke game, the game against Carolina. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think the strengths and weaknesses of those two teams are different. I think Duke has size, but they're not utilizing that size. I think Carolina is quick. They've got good ball handling. They've got a good offense. But they're going to have to rebound. They're going to have to bang. And I think that Carolina has a few more players that are grittier. I think, Withers hasn't really stepped out, but he's gritty. I think.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot. I think Harrison Ingram, he's gritty. Armando Bacot, he's gritty. RJ is freaking gritty, right? Chef Trimble is gritty. So, like, that's the piece why I'm going to give the edge to Carolina, because they got guys that got a little grit on them, like RJ grit. Armando, when he wants to, he's got a ton of grit.
I was gonna say something. I don't know about Armando having grit, but I'll give it to you.
He's got a ton. We've got history of him having grit. Armando's a 5th-year freshman at Carolina. He's been there forever. We've got enough video to say that the guy is gritty. Ingram seems like a gritty guy. Like, when I go to the Duke side, I don't see that. Roach, God bless him, nice basketball player, great college basketball player. McCain, Mitchell, no grit. Filipowski, no grit. Caleb Forster, no grit. They're nice players. They're clean. They need a clean game.
They're like pretty boys, huh?
They're like European. They're like the old European.
The San Antonio
players.
Spurs of college basketball.
Yeah, it's like I just don't see those guys banging. I don't see those guys. They don't have like a Jason Williams. Like, Jason Williams came up the court with some grit. I don't see that. Christian Layton, a grit. Grant Hill, grit. I see the gritty.
I don't disagree with you at all. I'm a big Drake fan, right? And he's had 2 albums recently, and it sounds like we're comparing the 2 albums. It's Certified Lover Boys, which is Duke.
Lover Boys at Duke, yes.
You got For All the Dogs, which would be, I guess, Carolina. I don't know if they're dogs, but those are 2 Drake albums.
Can I make that my new ringtone?
Which one is that? Certified
All the
Lover
dogs
Boys?
at Carolina.
Oh, yeah. For all
I
the
wouldn't
dogs
call
in
them
Carolina.
dogs. I mean, but I would call the team. I think if Caleb Love was on this Carolina team and him and RJ were getting along, I think that back combo is crazy. Because if Caleb is not pulling up and shooting and finding his shot, he can go to the rim and get it. And you saw that the other night when he dunked on that Pac-12 guy. Dunked on him, right? So I think if we had Caleb Love, honestly, with this group, I think that's a piece that you're looking at. Now I'm talking national championship. I'm talking RJ, Armando, Ingram, Ryan, Caleb Love, right? Chef Trimble off the bench.
To tell me, I'm in the holiday season. If ifs and buts were candied and nuts, what a wonderful Christmas it would be. But Caleb Love is in Arizona right now, and Carolina has who they have,
and that's why they're a final. That's why they're an 18. That's why. That's why I'm not putting them in the finals.
Do think this year, and it kind of just compounding off that though, like with as far as Elite 8, Sweet 16, there's really not a team that is like a clear, like in years past, you could look and say, yes, that team will be in the championship game when the season is over.
I think Connecticut could be.
There are good teams, but if Klingon stays hurt, then like that's a 7-footer with ankle problems. Like it's one of those.
Yeah, it's true.
Like if these guys,
there's a lot of parity in college basketball.
There's a lot of parity in the NCAA tournament more than just about any other postseason. All you have to do is get hot shooting one game. Look at Butler back in the day. Look at Loyola of Chicago. Look at Lehigh against Duke. Norfolk State against Mizzou the year that Mizzou was ranked. It was a 3 seed. Like it's all you have to do is it takes one hot run for one weekend to make a run. And I mean, anything can happen. I do think that if we're comparing the two teams, though, I think Carolina's got what it takes to make a deeper run than Duke right now at this exact moment in time. which we
Yeah,
are.
well, luckily championships aren't won in January. So
True.
give us about 45 more days, and we'll see you guys pretty soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So with that said, we're gonna end this show. Guys, man, happy new year 2024. We're gonna rock 2024.
Looking
This
forward
has
to
been 2024. It's the 2-4, episode 7. Thank you guys for coming back into the new year with us. I want to thank you, Daryl. I want to thank you, Will. I want to thank you, the fans, for listening to us globally. Guys, we are now have listeners in 54 countries, 637 cities globally. And you know, in some of places like Budapest, there might be one listener, but we've got fans in Budapest. So fans, if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. If you want to donate and help us bring great content to you, feel free to donate at the homepage of bluebloodrivalry.com. I want to thank Will. I want to thank Daryl. I want to thank everybody on staff that edits this podcast. Thank you for rocking with us. 2024 is going to be an amazing year, and we out.
Yeah.
Blue Blood TV Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, guys, these shows grow when you share them. So we have a great show here. Share them with all your friends. Make them aware of the Blue Blood TV Podcast.